I used to work the graveyard shift at a 24-hour convenience store, and better known as a 7-Eleven. It was situated in a quiet neighborhood. Most nights were uneventful, with the occasional late-night snack seeker or a fuel fill-up. But one fateful evening, a strange customer had entered, forever etching an indelible mark of fear on my memory. It was around 3 a.m. and the store was deserted except for me. The dim fluorescent lights cast an eerie glow on the rows of merchandise, creating long shadows that danced along the aisles. I stood behind the counter, fatigue weighing heavily on my shoulders, as I yearned for my shift to end. The chime of the doorbell alerted me to the arrival of a customer. I looked up and there he stood, a man of average height, wearing a tattered coat that seemed out of place in the warm summer night. His face was hidden beneath the brim of a worn-out hat, casting his features into shadow. Something about his presence sent a shiver down my spine. His movements were slow and deliberate, as if he were carefully studying his surroundings. I forced a smile, attempting to mask my unease, and I asked how I could assist him. His response was a low, raspy voice that seemed to come from deep within his throat. "I'll take a pack of cigarettes," he muttered, his gaze fixed on a spot just above my head. As I rang up the purchase, the unease within me had intensified. There was an air of malevolence surrounding him, as if he carried with him a darkness that defied explanation. I handed him the pack of cigarettes, my fingers trembling slightly. Just as he was about to leave, he turned to me, his eyes piercing through the shadows of his hat. "Be careful," he whispered, his voice dripping with a sinister tone. "There are things that dwell in the night, things that are hungry for your soul." My heart skipped a beat, and a cold sweat broke out across my forehead. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, and a sense of impending doom gripped me like a vice. I managed to stammer out a weak, "Thank you," as he exited the store, the chime of the door echoing through the silence. For the rest of the night, I was on edge, my every sense heightened to an uncomfortable degree. Every creak of the store, every flicker of the lights, seemed to be a harbinger of impending danger. The minutes dragged on, each one feeling like an eternity, until the final rays of dawn finally broke through the darkness. As the morning shift arrived, I shared my encounter with the strange customer, expecting a skeptical response. But to my surprise, my coworker's face had turned pale, and she recounted a similar encounter with him a few weeks prior. She described the same sense of foreboding and the eerie warning that he had whispered to her. Curiosity and fear compelled us to dig deeper, to unravel the mystery of this enigmatic customer. We discovered that he had been seen around town, lurking in the shadows, always wearing that same tattered coat and hat. Rumors circulated tales of his involvement in shady activity and his connection to not the best groups in town. From that day forward, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, of unseen eyes following my every move. I quit my job at 7-Eleven, unable to escape the memories of that night and the lingering fear that was still with me. To this day, I'm still pretty skittish when it gets dark, and I haven't taken a night shift position since. I feel like I would rather just not mess with the whole situation, and I definitely don't want to run into that man again. This is a long story, as it's been over 5 years in the making. I've actually talked about this story before, but there are some really good internet sleuths here on Reddit, and they were able to figure out ex-beauty queen's identity, and mine too. I don't really care if I give it my identity, but I don't want it to be on my actual account. so I deleted it a while back. The catalyst for me to repost it today on a throwaway is that it's cathartic. Last week, yet another court date for ex-beauty queen Stalker came and went. We had been expecting things to proceed with her entering a plea of guilty, or not guilty, but no such luck. All we got was another vague reason as to why she's not ready and a new court date issued, months from now. There have been many court dates since she has been arrested. It's been over 18 months since she had been arrested for continued stalking and harassment, and she still wants to drag things on, to seemingly try and stay relevant in our lives. As an aside, the amount of court resources and taxpayers' money that's wasted is actually really astounding. Anyway, onto the story. To recap, my husband dated a beauty queen, title holder of a well-known pageant before me. They broke up long before we met. She was a statuesque blonde, very tall and a knockout in her day in my opinion. This is somewhat important to the story, I guess. But while she was a dazzling pageant winner on the outside, on the inside, oh boy, she could be charming and beautiful if she needed to. But mostly, she treated people around her terribly, including my husband, and he eventually broke it off with her. But she never went away. She would continue to call and email repeatedly, even after my husband and I had met. If anything, her calls increased. She would call over and over again, day and night, even after my husband, then boyfriend, had blocked her number. She would ask for money, and threatened to go to the police, claiming that he had hurt her if he didn't give it to her. He obviously didn't give her the money, and this made her very upset. The threats increased and became more malicious, but when that didn't work, she would switch up tactics and try and sweetly ask him for help with certain projects she was trying to get up off the ground, or more accurately, have him do the work for her and she'd take the credit, with the promise that, if he did just this last thing for her, she would go away. He didn't reply. She would go back to being malicious then. Any tactic for attention, or for what she really wanted, money. My husband was terrified, because of course, while he never did anything to her, it would be her word over his, and he was terrified of ruining his reputation and career. We unfortunately ended up at an event that she also attended. She had been waiting for us to arrive and had placed herself near the entrance of the event. As we walked in, she stood across the room, looking me up and down, laughing and whispering into the ear of her date, making a point to try and make me uncomfortable. But that was okay. She was easily ignored until she had ambushed me as I came out of the bathroom. She had clearly been waiting for a moment that I was alone. She towered over me. She is very tall, and I had no intention of having it out with her. And as I hurriedly walked to find my husband, she kept pace beside me, hunched over. So she was at my eye level. I'm 5'5", her head turned towards me. She was like a caricature of herself as she ambled beside me, smiling crazily. "Where's your man?" she hissed in her heavy accent. Her eyes were black. She looked like she was out of a Tim Burton movie, hunched over with that crazy demonic smile. "Watch your back, Pug," she added, grinning. She liked to call me names like Pug because I own pugs, and I guess she thought it was an insult. What I didn't know then was, while I was in the bathroom, she had walked over to my husband and had thrown her arm around him while he was in mid-conversation with someone, and introduced herself to the man he was talking to, as if she and my husband were together. My husband unwrapped himself from her clutches and told her to beat it. She then beelined and waited for me to come out of the washroom. We stopped going to the parties after that. The last time that we ran into her was at a funeral for a mutual friend. She followed me around at the wake. As my husband, boyfriend at the time, was talking to the man's widow, I was talking to a friend and his wife. She walked right up and stood with us, joining us mid-conversation as if she were a part of the group. It was unnerving but also just bizarre. It was her funeral and I didn't want a scene. I silently picked my wine glass off the bar and walked away, leaving her with the couple that I had been speaking to, and her staring at me with a smirk on her face. All in all, it was annoying but still manageable. However, the emails, calls, and everything never stopped. She would call my husband over and over day and night, even though he had long blocked her number. She would drive by. I found my car keyed one night after I left it outside, but obviously I couldn't prove that it was her. But enough was enough. My husband had a lawyer send a cease and desist. After the first, she had called him from a private number. He answered and she said, "Hi, it's me," in a sing-song voice like they were the best of friends, and he hadn't just sent her a lawyer's letter ordering her to stay away from him and his family. He said nothing and hung up. Another cease and desist was sent, and then a third, but nothing would make her go away. She did not actually think my husband was capable of not wanting to be with her, because, you know, her beauty. Eventually, though, she got pissed that he wasn't giving in. So, she decided to take this rage to the internet. I knew that she was absolutely checking out my social media, but I don't really use it much, so I didn't care. However, she created a fake Twitter account and tweeted, "My husband's name is a fraud," and tagged all his colleagues, friends, investors, and family members. Every single person she could think of to try and ruin his reputation and career. On New Year's Eve, she posted on my Instagram account at exactly 12:01 a.m. "Happy New Year's, Scrud." Social media settings were all put to private. We went to the police, armed with the emails threatening to give her money or she would go to the police, and she was charged with 2 counts of harassment, and a restraining order was put into place. To our shock, the next day after her arrest, our phones were buzzing. This story had made the front page news. It was clearly a slow news day. Her day in court came right before everything with the pandemic happened, and we arrived at the courthouse and sat down. She walked in and we were shocked by her appearance. Actually, shocked is an understatement. She was unrecognizable from her former self. Gone was the statuesque, dazzling blonde. She had apparently shaved her head and was wearing a short, ratty brown wig. She had gained about 80 pounds, give or take, and was now sort of hunched. With her height and new girth, she looked like a linebacker. And to add to her new look, she wore a bulky brown men's overcoat and a scarf tied over her wig like a babushka. My immediate thought was, her outside now matches her inside. But it was her eyes that I had noticed the most. About a year earlier, we had shown a photo of her to our kids so that if she ever approached them, they knew to run. At the time, my son, who was young, commented that she had mean eyes. From the mouth of babes. Maybe it was that she had changed so much physically overall, but her dark eyes had narrowed into deep black slits. As she scanned the courtroom and saw us in court, she would turn around every so often to look back at us and glare. She would then whisper in her lawyer's ear and laugh as if she were having a grand time. She had a pair of big, round, cheap sunglasses that she would put on and take off intermittently. When she addressed the judge, she would put them on, and he had asked her to remove them. We thought that she was putting on a brave face and treating it all like a joke, but we were about to find out that getting arrested wouldn't slow her down. The restraining order didn't seem to faze her at all. If anything, it angered her even more. From then on, every day, night and day, she would post from multiple fake social media accounts, posting photos of myself and of my husband. She would put up my husband's photo with horrible captions that included bad things and comments and captions that I can't mention. And she also would post altered and unflattering photos of myself. She would call me old and ugly, and those are just the G-rated ones. Listen, I'm no beauty queen myself, The name calling, while obsessive and gross, wasn't what bothered me most. Although I'm not going to lie, seeing hundreds of photos of myself on her fake Twitter account, calling me ugly and obsessively pointing out every single flaw, did succeed in getting me down at times. Why did I keep looking? Because it was like getting a glimpse into her unraveled mind, just in case it was a clue of what she was capable or thinking of doing next. Because it wasn't her insulting posts that fazed me. What bothered me the most were these sinister captions. Keep an eye on your kids because I'll be watching. Or why don't you plant some flowers in your front yard? Or be good to your kids because you never know what could happen. How was your Uber Eats order? She would post pictures of me with an arrow directed to my head, which I perceived to be a gun to my head. She posted pictures of my husband's workplace, which she was not allowed to be within 2 blocks of, in accordance to the restraining order, but the police said that this could be just a picture she took from the internet. Sigh. She posted Agatha Christie quotes like, "Every killer is usually someone you know well," or "Your end is near." Her Twitter profile banner picture was taken from a movie poster and said "Stalker," like she was in on the joke. We called the police again, but they said that there wasn't anything they could do since she didn't explicitly tag us. I took screenshots of everything though. Many of her posts were nonsensical, but most were photos posted of us on this fake account, all altered with ominous captions, but we just couldn't get her to shut it down. I became anxious anytime my kids were outside shooting hoops in the driveway. My elderly mother wouldn't take the baby out in the stroller. She was too scared. It affected all of our lives. Life became dramatic. Ex-beauty queen would taunt us with, "Catch me if you can." She posted close-ups of her dogs, you-know-what, and a piece of her dog's crap with my name beside it, the implication obvious. It bothered me that she now had a dog, since I don't think someone like her was capable of caring for anything living. And then the calls started back up, this time to our home line. Yeah, I know we still have a home phone. She would just say mean things and then hang up, like karma will get you, and then weird chant-like calls as if she were reciting a spell. Sure enough, she posted photos of a pentagram and candles, and some sort of altar in the caption, "Ring, ring." Finally, and I mean finally, the police asked us to come in and give us video statements. We gave them a drive containing thousands of screenshots of posts that she had made. They arrested her again and charged her with 2 more counts of criminal harassment. My husband was angry at this point, but as Mama Bear, I just wanted to get this over with. She mentioned the kids frequently and ominously many times in her online rants, also calling them rude names, which I won't repeat here, because these are the things that upset me the most. The judge also issued a social media ban for her. By the time that she was rearrested for the second time, her fake Twitter account, which was literally mostly insults or references to my family, had 16,000 tweets in about 3 months. She had no followers, so they were just to herself. The inappropriate sites that I had been being tagged in stopped, and things quieted down tremendously. But I still get follower requests that I believe are her. But at this point, we were all on edge. I kid you not. I felt weird walking into my kitchen at night to make a sandwich, feeling creeped out that she was outside watching. I put nothing past her, as nothing is more dangerous than a desperate woman who has nothing to lose, which, by the way, was one of the quotes that she had posted. I don't know what is wrong with her, but I believe from what I've researched that she is a malignant narcissist. Perhaps some other mental issues are at play here, but I can say that she was a terrible person long before she decided to try and make our lives miserable. Just a crazy beauty queen turned stalker. I would love nothing more than to never meet her again. But if going to court helps you stay away from us forever, then bring it. As an aside, I wanted to mention that we heard from a reliable source that after my husband had broke up with her, she had become well known to the police for other reasons. While my husband dodged a bullet regarding her threats to go to the police saying that he had abused her, apparently other men have not been so lucky. Since I can't post pictures, I'll leave you with one of her posts. One that may not make much sense, but to us, it was a statement to let us know that she enjoys this drawn-out court process. Many of her posts are in her native language, so this is translated. Violent women and the cruelest never answer questions. They like to continue the misunderstanding indefinitely, so I seek to contact people only in order to torment them. My cruelty is my last attachment to the world, and my last chic.